One, and we're live. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I'm Ubisoft concept artist and indie developer, I guess I should say now, Vin Hill, and I am also joined as ever by the indie developer, Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
So do you want to kick us off this week? Because we've got a lot to talk about. I don't know if we're going to run through what we've been playing first, or if we're going to do that after, or what we.
I think we're going to clear up the elephant in the room, Vin, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
That you're like this mega superstar now.
Oh, get out of here! I'm not that big. Not that big. Just one tweet. That was it.
Would you say your tweet went viral?
No, I absolutely would not.
You wouldn't use that word.
No.
So, Vin.
I've had stuff go viral before, but that's not. This wasn't it.
What you and your doctor talk about, that's.
That's fair. That's very fair.
If you're watching us for the first time and you've come off the back of seeing this amazing image, this animation of a pixelated zombie eating a cool-looking dude that looks a bit like Vin, then that's because Vin's making this indie game about a guy and some zombies. And the tweet took off, and you've had some cool comments. I think it's going to hit 100,000 views, and you've had lots of retweets and lots of lovely, nice, positive things.
I have. It's been very weird actually to get as much positive reaction to it, because like we had this discussion in the pre-show, but like I for anyone that doesn't know, I work at Ubisoft, so it's kind of like I'm very much used to the negative side of things, you could say. Like gamers are generally like not very kind when it comes to their word use, when it comes to like the company which I work at, which I take with a pinch of salt. Like gamers are very vocal, but yeah, this tweet, like working on my indie stuff, like I've never really had any attention towards it, and this is sort of the first time that anything's really kicked off about it. So just seeing all of these absolutely wonderful comments from people, and people like being really supportive and nice and reacting to it really nice, it's very, very strange. Really I'm not used to this whatsoever. So, but if anyone's like watching this after the fact, then I just want to say thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Like it's kind of overwhelming a little bit. But yeah,
it was brilliant. I love that day because it was just like looking at it racking up the views. And it's I've heard like celebrities talk about when their tweets go viral and stuff, and I just think they pass it off and they're kind of humble. But I was just like, oh my god, it's got 1,000 views. Oh my god, it's got 2,000 views. And I just kept reading the comments, and then like all day, if I just was like having a bit of a lull, I was like, I'm just gonna go read the comments again. And everything was just really nice, and it was just like this flood of like nice comments. And for me, I don't know how you took it or didn't, but for me, I felt really good. I was like, I made up for him. I really chuffed for him. So it was good for me.
I appreciate
like,
that, man. Yeah.
Like seeing it like from nothing, just hearing you talk about it, seeing it from nothing, and then seeing the first few bits in, me getting really excited whenever I've seen it, and then like sharing that excitement with other people. It's just, it's been really good for me. So,
yeah. It's been very strange. Like I'm still trying to get my head around the whole thing. Like it's just weird to me. I'm kind of
You're doing the right thing though. You're taking it in your stride. You're not letting it think, I've got a hit on my hands.
Right.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Don't have to worry about the game now. It still doesn't have any sound. You're still working on the vertical slice, so like the tiny little bit of the tiny little section of the video game to see whether or not you actually got something that's got legs.
Yeah, it's
zombies might not have legs.
Yeah, well, yeah, he actually does have legs, but you never see him, which is kind of, like I kind of regret like making his whole body now, because like all you ever see is like on the other side of the fence.
It's the top half,
right?
Yeah,
it's sort of wasted time now. But yeah, it's very strange like seeing so many people react to just the visual side of it, and like they're really excited about the zombie on the fence and stuff. And we had this discussion. I think people are just happy to see like pixel art interact with 3D a little bit. So I think that's
your theory. Yeah,
that's my theory.
My
anyway.
theory is that people like looking at grass.
I think it's the grass, maybe. So it might be a combination of both. But yeah, it's at this point they are very focused on the visual side of it. So like my feet are very much on the ground in that respect. Like the little tweet got like 100,000 views almost now, and it's sort of nuts that that's happened. But at the end of the day, like I'm still making a game, and the game is only good like when people play it and say that it's good. It's not something visual. So but it does help. And it helps.
Lots of games have fallen down that track of looking great, getting a lot of buzz. Having press releases and things like that, just based on how it looks.
Without
and people buying it and then it not going down very well.
I mean, I've certainly played a few of them, like ones where I've fallen into that trap, being like, wow, that looks amazing, like I need to play that, like just based off the visuals alone. And then I install it, download it, I get an hour into it, and I've just been like, yeah, this is not like anything. It's not anything unique. Like, it's amazing to look at, but like as after gifts, that's it, And I don't really want to fall into that trap of just being like this GIF machine that people seem to.
So the pressure's on now. You got to make a good game, because otherwise you'll just be one of those people.
No, I mean, I really don't care if the game makes it or not. Pretty much, like I'm excited about it. Like I'm excited that people have reacted to it. But like in terms of the actual development, like it doesn't really help it or hurt it certain way. It's just I'm still going to be focusing on the vertical slice. I'm still going to get people to try it out. And I'm still just going to get
affect
feedback.
What you would have done if it had or hadn't have been a successful tweet.
Not at all. Yeah. Maybe there might be an extra zombie in the game somewhere now, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, wow, people really like the zombies, and got to make sure it's got plenty of them.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be hilarious if that's like the one and only zombie in the game, and like.
So far,
there's saying like.
Yeah, there's 3, I think.
Okay.
So it might get pushed up to 5. No, but that's fine.
To have them like just coming at the window and just like, hi,
just walking by being confused, like just those sort of things. But no, it's to sort of put a full stop on it. But yeah, it's been great. Like just people talking about it it's been really nice to see, and just like high profile people as well working at massive studios. It's like I really appreciate like all the shares, especially because that's sort of what made it explode. Like by itself, it wasn't so much just. Twitter didn't carry it, like the people that retweeted it carried it, and I really appreciate it.
I think it was really interesting as well, because there was people that work where you work, or at least in the same company. I don't know how well you do or don't know them as well, that were also tweeting, and the fact that I've not noticed them tweet on your other bits and bobs made me think that wow, it's not just the algorithm. There's something to it which is connecting with people, and you've stumbled on something that is like resonating. Because it can't just be the algorithm. It has to be that nugget of interest and intrigue that you've got there. So it's
I'm just glad that people are digging it so far. So we'll see. Like, for all I know, they get that controller in their hands and they're just like, wow, this is boring. Like the zombie's cool, but everything else is boring. I'm fully expecting something like that to happen. So just we'll see. But we'll like if anyone is interested in that, like we'll probably be talking more about. Not only my game, but obviously Chris's, and we also have another indie developer on called Sam Webster. We have a once a month solo roundtable, like indie dev podcast that we do. So check in on each one of our projects, and then we sort of keep each other accountable of where we are. So I'm going to be sharing more about my project, but we're also going to be seeing more from Chris and Sam as well. So if you are interested in, please like and subscribe, and then you can be notified like when that does come about. It'll probably be within the next week or so, I assume, because I think we're due for one.
We're due for one soon. Yes, it's nearly the end. Yeah, it's the end of the month, isn't it? So we're due.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see more of it then. But
yeah. Other than that, then. Should we dive into what we've been playing or news side of things?
That is up to you, sir. Like, if you want to mix it up, talk about news first, or if you want to talk about games, I don't mind either.
Let's mix it up. Let's talk about news.
Let's do it.
Some people might have clicked. So, yes, there's been this tweet. It was a video, sorry. It was, it was a video based on a podcast. So, this is from that chap's name, who is Mark Darrah.
Yep.
You could tell I was trying to find the article there. So he worked at the studio for over 23 years at Bioware.
Right.
And he was describing in this podcast about what Bioware Magic was. And he had some pretty colourful, fruitful things to say about Bioware Magic. He wasn't a fan. And off the back of what his podcast video was about, then flocks of people came to Twitter, and then the whole conversation around crunch has opened up again. We've both seen the little 7-minute video, and from what I can take of it, initial takeaways, yes, there is a conversation still to be had about crunch, but he was kind of talking more about video game process and not knowing where you are in a dev cycle. I think. Yeah. So to me, it was more about bad process. What are your initial thoughts on it then, Vin?
Yeah, I mean, it's just about general ignorance around the games industry and development. Like, we've spoken about this before, but it's this whole idea that there's a lot of people that believe that they know how video games are made based on playing them, which is sort of like a stupid way of looking at anything, pretty much. And this guy just basically lays out like the issues that studios have when they don't properly schedule stuff out, they don't have management that are actually like on the ball, and they sort of like plan this stuff out accordingly. A lot of people think because this is a creative industry, which it absolutely is, but it definitely needs structure still, and this is and Bioware of the sort of what was the game they were working on after Dragon Age Inquisition again? What was that called?
Anthem.
Anthem, that was it. Yeah, during like the Anthem, because I think I remember reading in an interview about this, and they were constantly referencing like the Bioware Magic thing, and they were sort of saying that like throughout development of all of our projects, we've done this thing where we like just scramble towards the end, we crunch at the very end, and it just works out, and we get 10 out of 10 games like constantly. Like it happened time after time after time. So they were sort of like, well, this structure isn't broken, then we're not going to fix it. And then it did sort of come to a head with Anthem's release, because then they realized like, okay, it didn't work out this time. Like it didn't all come together at the end like it did the previous times. So like that sort of exposed the issues of this sort of system. So it's that's pretty much like where this conversation sort of came out from. Because we're certainly seeing it from other companies right now that take on the same tactics but absolutely have not failed yet. Most notably places like Naughty Dog, notoriously known for their crunch, and people like their turnaround is pretty constant. Like they year after year there's just people leaving every 5 minutes. So it's kind of like but
Twitter is always like, I've got my dream job at Naughty Dog, and then there's another tweet that's like, it's been a great 3 years at Naughty Dog, and now I'm moving on to other things. And that's what like the Twitter timeline is filled up with. And it's not just Naughty Dog, it's other studios as well. I
mean, I'm just using Naughty Dog as an example of anywhere that uses a sort of tactic to get out quality games, I guess, like, because that's the sort of argument for it, and the reason why they do it is because it works to some extent. Obviously not that I agree with it, it's just the actual outcome of it. Like they generally like develop pretty decent games, like in terms of like how they're received.
And there's this belief that seems that a lot of people do believe, which I don't believe at all, which is what goes into making a great game, unfortunately, is crunch. Like crunch is part of making a great game,
right?
And they think that if you make crunch, that's you're part way there to making a great game. And to me, they're not mutually exclusive. You can have a great game, it just takes longer for regular working hours. It's just simple maths, and for me, it's like it's counterproductive, because people, there's been studies about when people work longer than 8 hours, eight and a half hours, you get the same symptoms as when you're drunk.
Productivity goes down as well.
And your productivity goes down. Your mental state goes down. It affects your physical health, like it spikes all the wrong chemical, like the bad chemicals in your brain. Like your immune response takes over, and you can get health conditions if it's a long-lasting thing. And it would be way better for everyone if they just got a good 8-hour sleep and worked a normal 9 to 5 sort of, like the rest of the world has got this figured out. It just seems like video games are the only industry which are still in that infancy, where they think that it's good for them, or because a lot of young people are, a lot of video games are made by younger people. There's not a huge number of sort of 50, 60, 70-year-olds making video games, because it's still, the industry's in its infancy still.
Yeah, it's strange, because like you're right, absolutely you're correct in that it's just the fact that the video games industry is very young. We're not very mature yet, like in terms of an industry. Like we've really only been around like producing games at this sort of level for about 30 years, like if you really stretched it. But really it's probably about 20. Like we've been at like this AAA output of banging out video games with literally hundreds of people in one space over multiple years on one production sort of thing. So we're sort of figuring this out. I think a lot of the problems stem from the fact that games industry 20 years ago Like, so you take that 20 years of the video game's sort of infancy. 20 years ago, it was the majority of developers were under 30, the vast majority of them. So
the younger guys as well, majority of guys.
So if you go back and you watch documentaries like the making of Halo 2, you'll sort of learn that pretty quickly. Like, there's a lot of young guys that are pulling all-nighters, and it's cool, and they're eating pizza and they're drinking or whatever. They're having a great time. They're getting paid great money. They're just having a blast. They're making video games, and they're like 24 years old, like living the dream sort of thing. Like, who cares if we're staying up until 3 a.m.? Like, who gives a crap, right?
Yeah, it's my body, my choice.
Right,
yeah.
24 years old, I don't care. And when you watch them documentaries, like, in context, you're sort of like, yeah, this totally fits. Like, they can do whatever they want. They're getting paid for it, and they want to do that, then go for it. But fast forward 10 years to the present day, and that's no longer the case. As we know, people have gotten older. They've got families, they've got kids, they've got other obligations, they've got responsibilities that they need to look after, and they can't do that anymore. And the industry is sort of catching up with that idea, I think. And I think, honestly, that's what a lot of this stems from, is the fact that we're just, like, everyone's waking up feeling a little bit older every day. So it's, yeah. That's sort of the impression I get anyway. But I don't know. Like, I mean, we both worked in studios before. We both have vastly different experiences. Vastly different. So, like, I guess
it's probably the two ends of the spectrum, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because as much as it doesn't like getting talked about, because crunch is a weird discussion when it comes to gamers anyway, because they're always mad about it, but genuinely they don't really care that much about it.
If the game's good enough, they're going to buy it. I don't know a gamer that's gone, this is my favourite IP, it's my favourite game, but I heard that there's really bad crunch and that there's people that are not happy about that. I'm still going to buy the game.
Exactly.
Like, I've never heard anyone go, I'm not going to buy it for this reason.
Right.
So
people don't... The problem is people don't vote with their wallets on this subject whatsoever. Yeah. Like, if there was a graph to say how much people crunch versus, like, how good the game is, like, the line would just be ridiculous. Like, nobody would care. But if a game was really bad and it crunched like crazy, then everyone talks about it. Like good Anthem. Example, Anthem. Another good example, Cyberpunk. You hear about all the crunch on that.
Yeah.
And then people are, like, really angry about it all of a sudden. It's like, wait a minute. So you're angry about Cyberpunk having crunch, but you weren't angry about The Last of Us Part 2 having crunch. Where is your line of ethics here? Like, I'm not really...
Or The Witcher 3. I'm guessing The Witcher 3 probably had a similar amount of crunch as Cyberpunk.
Just as bad. Yeah. So, like, where is the line here? Like, I'm curious, like, as a developer, because, like, I want to know where gamers care, apparently. At whatever point, like, does it happen? You know, because it's just a lot of it just doesn't line up a lot of the time. So it's a weird conversation because of that. And if you tell anyone, like, oh, well, Last of Us Part 2 crunches a lot, they'll say stupid things like, well, I guess that's what helps the game. I guess that's why it's so good, is because everyone's, like, busting ass on it and they want to do the best that they can and stuff. And, like, yeah, there is an element of that. I understand that. There's going to be young guys and girls that work there as well. The industry's changed a lot, so there's a lot of women working in these studios as well. That are probably still in that, like, young crunch mode that, like, I like to crunch. And there are absolutely developers that like to crunch. Like,
there is something to be said about productivity and times of the day. So when I was younger, for me, I was way more productive, like, midnight to, like, 2 or 3. That's my sweet spot of productivity. And it's because there's no other things to do. Like,
no distractions.
2 or 3 o'clock, there's no distractions, and you don't have to, like, live your life, because no one should be doing anything at that time of the day. And, like, I trick myself, and you know, when you're younger, your brains are wired differently. So for men, I think it's like 25 or something when their brains, like, stop developing and your sleep cycles change all throughout your life. And so when you're in that sort of 21 to 25 age gap, you can be productive at that sort of time in the morning. But, you know, that doesn't mean to say that you can't get a good night's sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time, wake up and do a 9 to 5. Like, I've done that too. So it's not an argument to say, oh, but I get my best work done at, like, 3 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then it's like, okay, fine. We live in a world where we're sometimes working across different time zones on a video game. Still doing 8 hours, just start later on in the afternoon, finish at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, go to bed, have 8 hours, wake up, and then start later. It's the hours in the day that people are cramming in that's unhealthy, and they're not getting their rest. So, like, working late because it's my better time to work is not an excuse.
No, it's really not. I mean, at the end of the day, like, after all of this is said and done, like, because we've spoken about this before as well, about the whole idea, like, the reason why crunch was so acceptable like 10 years ago is because, like, all these people breaking into industry suddenly getting their dream jobs, right? It's like, you shouldn't complain about working too much when you're working your dream job. But the reality of it is like, yeah, it is a dream job, but after a couple of years, like, it literally becomes a job as well. That's the thing. So that's what
you found, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still a job. I mean, I absolutely love this job. Like, I draw pictures for a living, for Christ's sake. Like, how do I complain about that? Like, I can't. Like, I'm very, very privileged, and I remember that every single day that I'm alive. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you've got to, like, this is just a job still. Like, and you've got to be able to, like, get on with your responsibilities as well. Like, I'm fortunate enough not to have too many outside of work. But, like, if I had a sick parent, or if I had 2 kids I had to look after and stuff like that, and it's like, no, I've really got to finish work at 5 because I need to go pick
the kids up.
Right.
Yeah. Got, like, responsibilities.
Not having that ability, and, like, having to call up your wife or your husband and just be like, yo, can you pick the kids up today? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stay behind at the office. Like, yeah, what time are you gonna be home? We're not sure. It might be a late one, and then you don't show up that night or whatever. Like, that's not acceptable these days, and I think everyone would agree with that. But it's the conversation about when that's right or wrong is very strange. But, like, to come back to, like, to pivot back to this sort of conversation with what's his name? Mark Durham? I can't remember. Mark Dara, sorry. Yeah, I mean, he's, like, the way that he sort of frames it is the hockey stick analogy that he's got of, I think a lot of the problems in the modern day crunch, which is like your BioWares, like your Naughty Dogs and stuff, is just the lack of management, in my opinion. I think it's just, like, not scheduling stuff out properly. And this is where, like, everything just comes to a head, where it's like, oh crap, we've only got like 3 months left. We need to finish this game. Everyone has to stay tonight, sort of thing. Like, that's just poor, like, scheduling more than anything. But I guess, like, what was your experience with crunch, like, personally? Because obviously it's a bit different from mine. But,
I worked briefly for 3 months after uni. I think it was 2012, so a long time ago now. I worked at Sony in Cambridge. It was transitioning to Guerrilla at the time, but it's no longer there now, so I can talk about it. It's all right. And we had bad crunch. All I can talk about is the experiences that I had and what I saw in the intern. So I was an intern.
Yeah.
And so the interns were all trying to get a job there. So we were working at the job and trying to impress everyone and trying to do a good job to, ultimately be hired or have a good gold star to put on our CV so that we could find work elsewhere. And the crunch that we experienced, it was pretty bad, because it was, I'm not going to say it was encouraged, but when crunch happened, it was talked about in a positive way, and it was
people are blasé about it.
People were blasé about it. They were either indifferent or they were impressed by how long people were willing to stay in the office. So there was some circumstances of people staying overnight, so sleeping at their desk, and waking up and then the cleaner would come in, and the person would wake up and surprise the cleaner and nearly give them a heart attack, and that happened. Okay, so and the reason why people were working late, and myself was working late, doing long hours, was because we were trying to get a job there. So we were trying to show our worth, and we was in this situation where we weren't told to go home at home time. That never happened. It wasn't like, okay, you guys, you should stop working now. That situation never happened. So I was working a full-time job.
Yeah.
Trying to apply for the job that I was working for during the day. I was then working on a test, like an art test, in the evenings and the weekends to try and use as an example to try and get the job I was already working. At the same time, they were advertising the job that I was working at for free as an intern.
Right.
To outside people. So I was still competing with other people that weren't actually there working, doing the job. So just me working there doing the job wasn't enough for them to figure out whether or not they wanted me to work there doing the job. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And at the time, all they were doing was covering expenses. So, and for me personally, that was just petrol receipts. So it wasn't even paid per mile. It was just the petrol to get me there and back.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, so that was pretty bad. So then that was management. So it was management. For me, I blame management.
It's always management.
Happen.
It's always management.
They were either indifferent or they were encouraging it or being impressed by how much people were willing to learn. And the fact that management were like, yeah, let's spend all this money on job adverts and let's talk to hiring companies and let's interview people. And they weren't even looking at the people that were under their noses. They weren't talking to the team leaders like, how is this person? Do you think they would be good here in a job capacity? Should we give them a full-time job?
Yeah.
So those questions weren't happening, which at the very least is just a waste of their time and money. Like they're wasting time and money circulating through people that aren't going to be there very long, showing them all the systems, getting them all set up, making them learn the software, learning the process, learning the pipeline. And then just doing the whole thing all over again. So to me, that's just ridiculous. That was my example of
free labor, I guess. Like that was the probably goal
labor
from it. Yeah. So
yeah, so they were their cost per their cost per person was down when they had interns. So it's desirable in that respect. And that kind of brings me on to the point of the hockey stick. It's all to do with where does the pivot point happen? Where is the end point? You don't know when it's all going to come together. For me, like I don't care how long it takes to make a video game. If I was when I was making a video game for a company, I didn't care when it gets released.
Yeah.
All I care about is that I do a good job and that the game's good. That's what I care about. That's what the gamers care about. That's what the devs care about. The only people that care about the release date is the marketing team for some reason in terms of like how well it will do financially and commercially and
well, I think the marketing team care about it because they need to plan for that more than anything. I think like that's but yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah,
and the shareholders that get profit.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like when a game's not done, you have two options. You can allow crunch to happen, and you're getting poor output for less money. Or you can just go, well, we're not very good at figuring out when games are ready, I guess. We still need to work on that. That's our fault because it's management's responsibility for figuring out how long it takes to make a video game. It's not the devs. The devs just need to work a day. Right. They don't need to worry about their deadlines. They just turn up, get told what work to do and do the work. It's the management that should figure out how many days that should take. And it's the management that go, oh, we've got this release window, we need to release it now. And it's management that go, oh, we're going to delay it for this amount of time.
Yeah.
The failure is on the companies, not on the devs. So to me, if I had my way, like all crunch would be illegal. You could have.
I mean, it is in some countries.
Matter.
That's the funny thing about it. Like it absolutely is in some places. Like the right to disconnect has become law in a lot of places, especially in Canada recently. Like Canada just passed a law about that, saying the right to disconnect. Like if you hit a certain time in the day and you hit your hours, you can just walk out, and there can be no issues towards you or anything like that. So it's kind of it's becoming law basically, and I think that's a direct result of this sort of thing. But like I guess like the stem of all of this, and my assumption is anyway, is the Japanese games industry more than anything, because it's always fascinating to hear these sort of stories around the industry. Yep. Hi, Gamer Ray. She's joined us in the chat there, talking about Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Yeah, we mentioned that before.
Yes.
But yeah, like I think the origins of it is absolutely in Japan, because like as much as people complain about Western games companies because they understand they can get interviews and they can get people talking about it and stuff, nobody ever mentions like Japanese crunch, because it's embedded not only into the Japanese games industry but into Japanese culture writ large. And it always has been, and it still is to this day. And if you think crunch is bad in the West, like on Cyberpunk or in The Last of Us, you haven't heard anything until like you talk to some people from Square Enix or Capcom or Konami. Like they are in hell on earth. Like if you want to do some comparisons, like they're completely different ballpark because it's systemic to the whole culture. Like they have this thing called a gambaru, which is like do your best sort of thing. And if you're seen as not doing your best, then you're like a weak member of society and you're not really contributing to anything, and you're a waste of space and things like that.
That's crazy because you could.
It's very different.
You could. That's a fine phrase, but you could mean it to mean work-life balance. Like do your best work-life balance. Like be your best person outside of work as well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's very specific to society as a whole. Like you do your best to contribute to society. So it's very so. Like I was a school teacher for a while before I worked in a Japanese games company, and just even it was way worse at the school than it was when I was working at Ubisoft in Osaka, because like the school system was embedded into the whole what we would call crunch over here, but like to the average Japanese person, it's just like, oh, he's just doing his best. Oh, ganbarimashita. No, like he's doing his best. He did his best. Or like people when they greet each other at work, they say otsukare-sama, which is like otsukare is like thank you for your hard work and stuff. And people will just constantly say these phrases over and over again, which basically means that people, what it results in is that people will stay late every night pretty much. Like there was constantly developers at Ubisoft in Osaka that would just, like I would be walking out at 5 and I'd know like the Japanese developers, all the foreigners would be walking out. It's like, yeah, the day is done. We finished our work. But the Japanese people often stayed behind, not because like there was any studio pressure from it. It was just like, that was just the Japanese system. And I think because of the games industry did so well as well in Japan, like it was basically born there. Like that's like the AAA sort of, model that we've got to make development of games now was sort of born in Japan for the most part.
Yes, it's like a Japanese export.
So I kind of get the impression that it might be something from that is the seed of it. But it was very fascinating to me to live and work in Japan and just see the cultural differences between the foreigners and seeing like how Japanese people would push through. Because even if like the interesting thing about the schools was if you were working in a Japanese like school as an English teacher, you would see teachers just pretending to do extra work and staying late just so they can look like they're doing more. And it's very little to do on the actual job that you do. It's not about the quality of the work that you do. It's more about the amount of work that you do is more valued. So
and being seen to be doing it.
It's mostly about that. Very specifically, it's about how you are portrayed and how hard working you seem to other people is the most important thing in Japanese society almost. So it's kind of like this weird, everyone's like battling to like stay the longest so they can look like they've worked the hardest. And I think a lot of that is bled into the Japanese games industry, absolutely, but also writ large into the games industry in the West. We're obviously getting rid of that. Like it's slowly filtering out now. I think we're almost out, but I think it's going to be a long road for the poor developers in Japan, because ultimately, like this is never covered ever. Like no one ever talks about the Japanese games industry. They don't.
I've never read an article about the Japanese.
And why would you, right? Because it's also very frowned upon in Japan to complain about society in any way. So that's why, like when Hideo Kojima got fired pretty much from Konami, you will never find out why that happened ever. He will never people word about it.
Complain
because he doesn't want to complain. Because the old expression, like the nail that stands up in Japan gets hammered down. It's very much about that as well. Like if you're seen to be complaining, then you're just being dramatic and you're just causing trouble. You're creating problems. Like you're a drama queen. Like you don't want anything to do that. Like do your best stuff. Like ganbatte ne. It's very strange. Shogunai. And that expression specifically, I know Joe and I constantly say Shogunai, which is like, oh, it can't be helped. Like if you ever complain about anything in Japan, I guarantee that is the expression that would get said to you more than anything. It's like, Shogunai now. Like, I can't be
but
can't
it
be
always
helped.
can.
Absolutely can be helped.
Can be helped.
Can be helped. Like 99% of the things that they say Shogunai to is like, yeah, you can absolutely fix this, especially crunch. Like why are people staying until 9? Oh, because they want to work hard. They're doing their best. It's like, okay, makes no sense.
Yeah, but providing for culture, what do you think they're doing?
Right.
Yeah. Well, it just looks to me like they're pretending to work. Or at
Yeah.
least-
No, and it's just, there's a really funny anime, like if on Netflix, if you ever watch it, it's called Kill la Kill. One of the most hilarious animes ever made, because it's just a massive like cultural reference to everything that's not wrong with Japan, but it's there's a lot of nods to Japanese culture in that. And the like one of the main characters is a schoolgirl, and she's constantly rushing to get to school. She's like, oh, I'm gonna be late. She's always running to school, but the second she gets to school and she like sits at her desk, she's asleep. And that is completely true. Like, kids will literally rush around to be like perceived as working hard, like, oh, I need to get to class, I need to do this. They'll get to class and like there'll be a load of kids just asleep on their desk throughout lessons, like not paying attention. Like, oh, leave him alone, like he's been working hard this week. It's like, all he does is sleep. Like, I'm here every week, dude. You know. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Sometimes sometimes if I know that bedtime's coming, I will rush to go to bed. But it's never usually at work or school.
Right.
So I guess we don't get that in the West. But yeah, Ray, that's one part of Japanese culture that needs to change. Yeah,
absolutely.
If there was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Japanese are notorious for having like some of the world's highest suicide rates. There's a very good reason for that, and I guarantee like tiredness is the vast majority of it, because it just sparks depression. So yeah. There was this one
episode when I was working in Cambridge. I would have to drive there from Milton Keynes, so it was a long commute. It was like 2.5 hour commute there and back. Sometimes if the traffic was bad, I think it was like 2 hours to get there. And so I would be working my balls off trying to get this job. You know, it was a high stress situation. Like, didn't have a job. I had, was in my student loan had gone, and I was in my credit card and all this sort of stuff, because I was paying to work there basically, because the cost of my car running it and stuff.
Yeah.
And tires went on the M1 or whatever motorway it was to get there, and so I had to buy a load of tires. So yeah, it was costing me a lot of money. I had no money. I was relying on parents to sort of foot the bill. Another thing which I sort of have a problem with, because other people don't have that opportunity.
Right.
Don't have those parents that can support their kids all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good reason why that studio isn't there anymore, Chris. Let's be fair.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I was driving back one day, and I was just so tired, and this never happened to me before or since, and I was just so tired, but I had nowhere else to go, so I needed to drive home, and I just totally zoned out while I was coming up to a roundabout, and I didn't not notice a car that was coming to the right of me. In the UK, we have to give way to the right on a roundabout. And I even was going too fast just for the roundabout. And this was a roundabout that didn't have a straight on. It just had a left and a right. So I was just going too fast. And I had to slam on the brakes just to stop on the roundabout. Luckily, the car on the right of me saw and had to do an emergency brake. But I just didn't even notice that until I was on the roundabout and was like, oh, I should probably brake, because I'm just going to go into a field now. And then I had that, like, I stopped on the roundabout, and I was just like, yeah, this is no good. This is not healthy. Like, if I keep doing this, this could have ended quite badly. And it was because I was overworking myself at a company, trying to prove myself, trying to get a job from them. And I was just like, yep, something's wrong here. Like, the system has failed. This is not good enough. There should be safeguards in place to prevent this sort of thing from happening. Like, that these acts. This, I didn't think it should. It's not my fault. Like, I'm just trying to get a job. I'm just trying to be a good person in society. I'm trying to pay my way. I'm trying to
do your best, Chris.
I'm just trying to do my best, and I thought this is not good. So that was a bit of a wake up call, really. Like, it's not healthy. Like, you can be fit and young and healthy, and you can do the long hours, but you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that could have gone down wrong. So that happened to me. So anyone that goes, oh yeah, I like being tired, I like working, it's like, well, better not get behind a car then if you're that tired, because tiredness kills.
Yeah, I mean the only not good side, but the only side note to that, I guess, is because it was 10 years ago, I'm guessing a lot of stuff has changed. I hope at Sony level anyway, Because
all I can say is that it was that long ago. So
hopefully it's changed.
10 years ago. So
I guess
hopefully it's changed.
I mean, that sort of like brings it on to like my sort of experience in 2022, like which is 10 years later, which is in the 7 years I've worked in the game studios that I've worked in Japan and the US and in Canada. Over 3 countries, I've never done any crunch, ever. And
that to me is absolutely shocking. Because to me, I've just got this idea, like this AAA idea of like, if you're in AAA, if you're in a big AAA, then yeah, you must have crunch. You must have at least some crunch, or people that want a crunch, or crunch happening here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, the way that it's I mean,
shocking.
Because a lot of people don't like the idea that, hey, Ubisoft does something right, sort of thing. I know like people are sort of shocked by this idea, but yeah, like Ubisoft devs, the vast majority of them don't crunch. If people need to work overtime, which is a completely different thing, like we're not talking about crunch. If people want to work overtime, for one, it is 100% optional, 100%. Like your performance is not like judged upon it whatsoever. Like you have to get approval to even get overtime. You can't just stay behind and be like, I'm just going to stay until 3 a.m. It's like if the manager says no, you go home. Like you're not allowed to stay. They will kick you out. They'll turn off your computers like at a certain time. That's how strict they are on it at our company. And there's something to be said about that, because Ubisoft, especially in Montreal, is the world's biggest game studio in terms of employee count. So if they can handle 4,000 people not to crunch, I don't really see why anyone else can't do it. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that Ubisoft has pretty decent management. I know that might be like shocking to hear for some people, but like in terms of scheduling games out, they've got it pretty figured out. Like we can work to a point where it's like, okay, this game is probably going to hit around this time. Like, yeah, we might get a delay here and there, but for the most part, like the games come out, they finish, and people aren't killing themselves over making them.
Yeah.
So like there is a
the
method.
biggest one in the world can do it. There is no excuse for any others, is there? Except for like poor management, because you can't have the employee count be a reason.
A lot of this is just down to management and tracking tasks and sort of scheduling stuff out correctly and saying, okay, identifying issues that could be systemic to the rest of the team. So if X developer is working on something that could benefit 20 other developers, it's about communicating that and like saying, okay, if there's a problem over here and it's going to affect all these other people, we need to work on that problem first. And it's about prioritizing them sort of tasks and figuring that stuff out, because honestly that's where the majority of the problems come from in these studios, is that people aren't identifying the issues with the games and sort of thinking about like how to tackle this in the right order and do it properly. And a lot of that is just down to bad scheduling and management. So it's just, there's really no excuse. It's just about like people give it free passes like to companies like Naughty Dog, where it's like high stress paying job, but like people come out of it with a shining resume. Absolutely true. But at the end of the day, like why not? Like why can't we get rid of these weird things that companies like Naughty Dog say, like, we have a flat management system. We have a flat floor system where everyone can just walk up to each other. We don't really have meetings, things like that. It's like, so how do you figure stuff out? Like if there's a problem and it involves more than one person, like how do you really like diagnose that and fix it? Like without going through 25 hoops, and this extends out into a whole massive issue, which takes months to fix. Like, how do you figure that out? And the answer is they don't until it's too late, and then they have to crunch and figure it out that way. So it's sort of, it's very strange.
It sounded like Mark Darrow was saying that they didn't know where the pivot point was, and they didn't know when systems start coming together. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're not going to use an agile system or a waterfall system, and you don't have your milestones mapped out with a time scale, then yeah, you're not going to know when systems are supposed to come together and supposed to gel. And if you're not good at planning that out, then yeah, it's going to be a surprise, and you should plan that in accordingly, and then it's not a surprise. So it's, I mean, obviously you can't talk about how Ubisoft management works in terms of what systems you implement. Right. I'm assuming, but it sounds like that there is a way to do it, and Ubisoft have got.
It's
that,
just I'm just extremely wary of any company that turns around and says, yeah, we don't really like everyone's approachable. There's no like hierarchy. Like, I hate when they say that. There's no hierarchy in our studio. It's like, that sounds like a really bad place to work.
Yeah, there is. You just don't want people to know what it is, which is not good.
You need leadership. You need people to tell you what to do and what not to do, and focus on the right things at the right time. Otherwise, this could go off the rails really, really quick. You might come out with a superior product at the end of it, but in terms of like actual development and like people like living a healthy life, you know, like what's more important here? Is it to get a better game out, or for people to suffer? Or for people to not suffer, sorry. Like, choose your poison. Because if it really is just like, I want the best game out, then you're a piece of...
Just make the dev cycle longer and just pay people... Yeah, they'll be working on a game for longer, you know, less turnaround. It's better for everyone. Gamer A wants to know when Assassin's Creed Japan's coming out.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I've been, I've lived in Japan. They absolutely sell Assassin's Creed in Japan. I've seen it on the shelves. It's always there. That was the question, right?
Yeah, that's cleared up, so that's good.
Cool.
Do you want to keep on this, or should we talk about reusing animations?
I mean, how long have we been going now?
Oh, we've done a bit of a rant, haven't we? It's half 7 here.
Okay. Yeah, we're about 45 minutes in, so
okay.
Yeah, we can talk about reused animations for 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, because it is a quick one, because it's come up again. I think we've talked about it before. Someone's noticed that in Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, they use the same animation for when Aloy jumps off the cliff and uses the grappling hook. And
Shock.
then the shock horror. So the games industry reuses assets. What? I'm not paying for this. This is ridiculous. I paid for a new game, not an old game. When are you going to start cutting corners and start making a real game with all new assets and all new, you know, where does the line end there? All new assets, all new animations, all new code, all new HR structure, all new devs. You know, the same devs made the 2 games. You know, I'm not paying for this. It's the same employees.
Yeah.
Like, where does she draw the line? Where does the line get drawn?
There's a few different lines here which people are constantly jumping over to try and like justify their weird stance on this, but. Like the example I keep coming back to, it's like if you watch 2 Spider-Man movies, and in the second Spider-Man movie you see the same building in New York City in the second movie, and then you getting angry about it. That's the equivalent of this. And if that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. It's really and this like I am a huge advocate, and obviously I'm a developer, so I'm obviously biased towards this, but I'm a huge advocate for developers to reuse as much as humanly possible. I really am. Like, I think it would be great if we did it more. We reuse actors all the time. Like, if you saw Tom Cruise in the same 2 movies, in 2 different movies, you'd be like, oh my god,
all the Mission Impossibles. I thought this was a new movie.
Right.
He
it's
jumped
crazy.
The same way. That's ridiculous.
And that's the point, right? So, like, with the Aloy Horizon Forbidden West thing, like, jumping in the same way as she does. And the same thing happened with the Kratos thing with Ragnarok when that was announced. Like, Kratos getting in a boat animation looks the same as the Kratos getting in a boat animation in the first game. It's like, do you know why? Because the same dude getting in the same sort of size boat. Like, do you really think he's going to do a front flip in this one instead, just, you know, to mix it up a little bit because he's been doing it the same way for all these years? No, he would probably do it the same way.
I was thinking of this, like, on the mocap studio, and they got the director there, and they've got, like, the actress, I can't remember her name, like, who plays Aloy, and they're like, right, so we've had some
Ashley
backlash.
Burke. Yeah.
Ashley Burke. I love her, by the way. We've got this, you know, backlash on Twitter. We've got to redo the jump in animation where it's probably animated anyway. It's probably not an actual mocap situation, but in my head, this is the comedy sketch. Like, okay, got to jump off the cliff in a different way.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so was there something wrong with the way I jumped off the cliff the first time around? No. It's like, okay, so what would you like me to do different? It's like, it just needs to be different. Does it need to be better? Does it need to be like more dynamic? Does it need to be like worse, just so that you can see there's a difference? It's like, no, it needs to be as good, just slightly different.
Right.
Like, shall I wave my arms slightly more? Like, shall I twist my body? It's like, no, it just needs to be different. Like, they just need to be able to tell that it's not the same, and that will appease them. And it's just like, there's nothing wrong with the animation of her jumping off the cliff. Like, it's a good animation. It works really well. It looks amazing.
She wouldn't do it any different way, because if you jump off cliffs, like, you're probably going to do it in the same way so you don't die, right? So
Yeah.
there's that side of it as well, which is, but like the thing that cracks me up more than anything, it's like it's all very superficial complaints about like visual stuff, like, oh, they've reused an animation, they reused a rock, like, why are we still making rocks? It's ridiculous. Like, they're rocks, man. Like, they're fine.
There's stories of people that have made thousands of rocks for video games so that people wouldn't complain about the rocks. And it's just
Crazy.
like, seriously, that's someone's job to make rocks. Like,
And
yes,
it's all superficial stuff as well.
it's fun to make a rock every now and again.
But
yeah.
That's
Every now and
fair.
again, when people have been making other things, when they come and model a rock, they see it on Twitter, they're like, oh yes, I'm finally getting to model a rock again. So yeah, it can be cathartic and therapeutic, but they don't go, yes, I get to model 10,000 different rocks.
Again.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Again.
Just
For
being
the
the rock
second
guy.
game.
Yeah. But I mean, the superficial side of it is the fact that it's all visual stuff. So like the code side of it, like, no one bats an eye. Like,
Yeah.
every single game ever that is worked on reuses code. And do you know what it's called? It's called a game engine. Shocking. Do you know how much reused code is used across multiple IPs, across multiple studios? We're talking millions of lines of code that are just constantly in recirculation. But no one cares because you don't see it, right? That's, you know, it's okay. Programmers can be lazy, but, you know, you can't be a 3D modeler or an animator and be lazy. Oh, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
No, don't be
That
so
looks
silly.
like cutting corners.
Right.
Yeah.
Even
It's
though
just ridiculous.
the argument is the exact same. So, and the fact that they don't have a problem with the code, they really shouldn't have a problem with the animation, in my opinion. I think we should reuse as much of this as possible. The game looks
And also,
good. Who cares?
The other thing is, I don't care about people complaining. I care more about companies that change what they would normally do to appease the people that complain. Because the people that complain are probably going to buy the game regardless.
Right.
You've never heard of a game fail, like a follow-up game ever fail, goes, that game was brilliant. It's just that they reuse too many assets, so it's a bad game. Like that, the critics will never say that that's ever a thing.
Not
Like,
in a million
just-
years.
Not in a million years. If you can reimagine a story and get an emotion, and you're revisiting places that you've revisited in a previous game, it's lauded as, like, you know, oh, look how fresh and new, they're telling a new story. It's just gamers it's just the odd few people that you know,
Yeah, man.
that like to dunk on it. But there's something to be said about the Twitter algorithm as well. Like, the Twitter algorithm should just let it die. It's devs that retweet it and comment on it and say, this is bad, stop doing this.
It's
That
the
keeps
quote
the conversation
retweets.
going.
It's the quote
Yeah.
retweets out of the problem. And
Yeah.
the only piece of advice I can give to developers is, like, take a screenshot of what they've said and then post that up with your whatever comment you're going to say. Like, that's fair game. But like retweeting
quote
them and
tweets
letting and teaching Twitter, like, oh, this person has something good to say. Everyone keeps retweeting them, so we'll just keep this is good. But if you just
Twitter
post
etiquette.
pictures, then yeah, just like the algorithm will just forget about them pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's a good little treat for everyone. A good little lesson there.
Yeah,
Twitter
Burkhardt just
etiquette.
mentioned it'll be interesting to see if someone makes an AI algorithm to vary animations just because of the superficial complaint. Honestly, it would not surprise me if it doesn't already exist in some way.
Like, just change a hand rotation slightly, or like a foot.
Yeah, I'll just flip the animation completely,
Or flip
so
it.
she jumps
Yeah.
the opposite way. But it's the exact same one. It's just flipped, but no one can like say anything about it because no one would notice it. Because you'd jump off the cliff and be like, "Oh, that looks a bit different," and you would never compare them.
And the thing is, like, there's so many different things about those two. The only thing that is the same is the animation. So, like, the way the hair is animating is
Hair,
totally
clothes,
different.
environment, the weather, the lighting, the upgrade. Like, get out of here, man! Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, we should
There's so much that's different. Yeah.
so much, and like, really, would she be any different? Because if she's the same person, you know, it's stuff like that.
Jumping
She's not
off
any.
the same-
Is she any older?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference here? Like, you know, would people complain about if the asset didn't get remade? If it's the same character across multiple games in the same generation, it's stuff like that which confuses me. You know, like, it's just nuts. We should just allow these people to reuse whatever they want. Like, especially if they're in a studio and they're making their own sort of content packs. You know, like if you work at a certain company and all you do is make rocks and they reuse them same rocks across all them IP in that generation, why shouldn't that be a thing? You know, because then you could just hire the rock guy and then he just kicks ass for it, like, you know, for that time, and he only works on rocks for that time, and then he moves off onto trees, and then he makes buildings, and then he's happy, and then everyone can just use everything. Just more projects getting out, everyone's buying more games, everyone's playing more games. Like, this is not a bad thing. They're rocks, people. You know? It's nuts.
With a lot of indie game stuff, I see some good videos where people are saying, you know, buy assets from the asset store pack, buy like packs of trees, reskin them if you want to, but like don't be afraid to buy a pack and use that to populate your game world. So that it's being taught the right way, at least on the dev community, which is good. So that's good to see. And I think that goes to show that it's like it doesn't really make a difference on your actual end product. Like if people say about it, then that just means that your game's at least had good enough marketing for it to be noticeable.
Yeah.
And it's probably not going to affect, like, I don't think anyone is not going to buy Horizon Forbidden West.
And I think that's the ultimate point to all of this. Like, regardless of this conversation, and like, even though we've had a little bit of a rant about it, regardless of all of this, none of it matters, because everyone still buys the games. Nobody votes with their wallet when it comes to this subject in particular. And so it really, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, I advocate for more developers to reuse more stuff, honestly, because it's just nuts that we don't. Like, it saves so much time and labor.
Is it healthy Discord because nothing bad actually happens off the back of it?
I guess, yeah. But I don't know. Like, if it's inconsequential, then what's the point of having a discussion in the first place, I guess?
So you might as well just stop. Yeah.
Right. How about
it's infuriating, I suppose.
Yeah. It's just, like, I think, like, ultimately, both of the conversations that we've had today, the reason why I have problems with it is just this general lack of knowledge and just overall ignorance, like the willful ignorance of some people that believe that they know how games development works based off the fact that they just play games. Like, that is the problem here. It's like they think that it's a certain way when it's not. Like, I had someone complaining about, like, I saw someone in my feed yesterday about complaining about the concept art and like how useless it is. Like, they do all the concept art in pre-production and no one ever touches it again. Why would I want to look at it? Just the ignorance of that statement is just like, you just want to pick these people up, load them into a cannon and fire them into the sun and be like, peace, you know, because you just, it just annoys me beyond no end. It's just people don't know what they're talking about. That just the willful ignorance of like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to come out and say it, sort of thing. And it's like that just stop talking about what you don't know what you're talking about.
And those same people are like digging on your zombie guy, just like, man, this looks awesome. When's the game coming out?
Yeah. Well, I'm just so you know, I'm definitely going to reuse some stuff from house to house.
You heard it here first. Hot take. Oh my god, he's going to reuse assets in his own video game. Oh my god.
Absolutely.
Next, you're telling me that the fence has got some of the same textures that have been copied and pasted.
Anyway, we
like
should move
fence
on.
Panels.
Yeah, we should move on.
Okay. No, I thought they were unique fence panels, man.
What's this? Gate or something? Gamer Gate. There's a joke in there somewhere about gates and fences. Gate. Maybe. Anyway, we should finish this thing off with what we've been playing this week, because we've flipped it around. We'll keep it brief because
we started the week off literally after we finished the last week's episode. We went off and played your new game, Vin, that you invented. It's cool.
Absolutely not mine, but yeah, I did work on it, to be fair.
Yeah. So it was Tom Clancy's. Is it called Rainbow Six Extraction?
Yeah. That's the full title, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, which is way too lengthy. Just call it Rainbow Six Extraction. Like, that's the.
What's just Extraction?
Just Extraction. Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, and we had a good fun. It was a good laugh. Took a while for Vin to figure out. I mean, for a video game person, Vin, I am surprised that you don't have a headset with a mic.
I don't. I honestly don't play multiplayer games that much anymore. Like with mics anyway, because like when you play with random people, it's just like it's either racial slurs coming at me or just like, oh, you're shit and stuff like that. So I'm just like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with these people. So I generally don't talk to people. So, but I did crack out the headset for you, Chris, just so we can play this game.
Thank you. I'm privileged.
But I really didn't appreciate the insults that you threw at me. It was a bit too much.
It's an online game. That's what you got to do.
That's fair. Yeah.
But no, I was really surprised that it's a very in-depth game. Like I had this impression, I think, that it was going to be like a AA game, it's only have a few bits and bobs that you can do. But I was constantly being surprised by the enemies, the different people that you can play as, the different abilities, the different weapons, like the game modes. It's really in depth. And like when I left that first play session, I was like, man, there's a lot to this. Yeah. And it kept, every single time we was out doing the game, it was feeling fresh. Like everything felt new. So that was great.
Yeah, I've been playing it for the past week, like in solo mode a lot of the time. Like I'll just go in and do like incursions by myself. I played with a couple of randoms online as well, but they just get murked like instantly. Like it's kind of funny.
Even more than me.
Oh yeah, like it's kind of comical, like how bad randos are. Like if they're not in teams. Like this is very much like the game itself is very much designed for multiplayer anyway. But
yeah,
if you're playing with random people, it's kind of hard to get, you
need teamwork, and it was good for us. I definitely felt like us talking helped us play the game.
Absolutely.
Like, here's a person through here, you take this one, I'll take that one, that sort of thing. And mainly it was me just asking you, what does this do, Vin? What is this about? Hoping that you'd be an expert in the game, which obviously you kind of were, but not as much as I thought. I thought you'd be.
No, I mean this like we were talking about. I don't like shilling out the game anyway. Like to anyone, like anyone can make up their mind. And the best thing about this game, like, is the fact that it's on Game Pass, so people can just go and try it if they want to. If you don't, then I totally respect that. But yeah, I mean when it comes to me playing the games during development, I try to avoid it as much as I possibly can. Like as a concept person, like I'll look at screenshots and watch videos of the game constantly in production, but when I'm working on it, like I try not to play it because I'm a gamer. Like I want to play the game eventually.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this. I was sort of avoiding it.
That's cool. The person in the tree. Yeah, just the concepts are really cool. And you know, it's really cool that we're going to get to see some of your art that you've done on this as well.
Yeah, there's some concept art coming. We'll probably talk about that in the next episode or two. I'm sure.
Yeah. Have you heard of Wildermyth? I've not heard of Wildermyth.
I have not.
No. Okay, fine. So yeah, that was really fun. So maybe we can play some more of that sometime.
Yeah. No, I'm good with that. I mean, it's like a lot of people are like the reviews weren't too kind to it. Like I think it got like 7s and like 7.5s and stuff, which is absolutely fine because the play count's up. Like over 3 million people have played it now in its first week, which was sort of insane. Really good reception.
In a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the people that are playing it, like we've been trying to keep an eye on it. Trying to ignore the journalists for the most part because their opinions don't really line up a lot of the time with gamers. I mean, like journalists don't talk about Grand Theft Auto 5 every day, but you know that's like one of the most played games. Like people trash on Call of Duty every year. Like the last two Call of Duties are at the top of the NPDs. So like what people play and what journalists like are often two separate things. So it's been really fascinating to see, how the actual people that are playing the game are reacting to it because they're having a lot of fun with it. So that's the important thing. But we'll see.
I was surprised at how good it was. So yeah, and it's one of those games where it looks okay with the video, but it isn't until you actually are in that.
It plays a lot better than it looks, I guess. Yeah. Like it's the better way to describe it. And it was hilarious. Like everyone internally was just like, Kotaku wrote a positive article about us. It was really funny. Like everyone,
I noticed that.
Like did the rounds of like Kotaku article like praising Rainbow Six Extraction going around the studio is just like, all right, that's bizarre.
Well, it's out of character.
Very. Yeah. And considering like Kotaku were the ones that were, and it was probably like Kotaku probably only said good things about it because everyone else was saying negative things.
That's
being edgy, reverse edgy.
Yeah,
I guess
it probably was that just the writer actually liked the game. I'm sure that's probably as simple as it was, and they just didn't have an agenda at that time.
Right, they had nothing else to talk about.
Positive take on that, but that's good. No, that's good because it deserves to get good. It deserves to get good praise, and yeah, it's a great game.
I will say, I mean, like I said, it's on Game Pass, so if anyone wants to go and check it out, like go and play it. I'm not going to tell you like if I'm enjoying it, but I'm not going to say if it's a good game objectively or anything. Obviously, I'm biased. So everyone should like go and find out for themselves, especially if you've got Game Pass. But if you haven't, then wait for a sale if you're on the edge or whatever.
It's just your time. Yeah,
right.
It's just worth your time.
Yeah, it's one button.
I've been playing the best game I've ever played. I think it's up there. It's on the short list.
Oh, you got Death's Door. Awesome. Like how are you liking it? How far did you get in Death's Door? Are you enjoying it?
Well, you say okay, fine, fair enough. I've got through to like.
You're actually playing Death's Door as well.
Yes,
okay.
I am actually playing Death's Door.
Good man.
I'm through to like the second level with the gravestones, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And yeah, it probably is one of the best games I've ever played. I've got the brolly, that was fun.
So good.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that game. That is a great game. I've only just started playing it. I was playing it with my boy earlier today, and he loves it when you die because the big death comes up,
Right.
and it's really great texture. And he was just chuckling away because he's never seen that before. And I was thinking, I've never seen that before. That's actually really clever. Like to use the game space as a stencil and have the word appear there. So that was really fun.
Do you know how many people made that game?
How many? 4?
2.
No way.
2 people made that game.
What?
They freelanced out, I think, 2 concept artists, and then they had 1 person make all the 3D work. But the vast bulk majority of the work was done by 2 people. Which is mind-blowing. And like when you finish that game, we'll do a deep dive into it, I think, at some point, because there's so many little things that I could pick apart, like in terms of like games design. It's just does so well.
Yeah.
And the sound design as well is great.
Yeah, it's so well balanced. Yeah, and the onboarding was really smooth and slick, and it hooks you in really quick.
Yeah. God, I love that game.
Because most of what I'd seen is just like the first 10 minutes of the game, and I was like the highlights are the first 10 minutes of the game. What? So that was that got me hooked as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there was that. But what I was gonna say was the game What Remains of Edith Finch.
Okay.
Which is an amazing game that a lot of people know about, and it's just amazing. I can't explain it. You play a person that goes around a house, and then you relive past relatives' lives, and it's just one of those games where games design and story meld, and it just you can't tell where one end and one begins, and there's no cutscenes. It's just everything is in game, and it's by the company that did Giant Sparrow. So they then went on to do is it Black Swan or Forgotten Swan?
I think it's Forgotten Swan. No, the Unfinished Swan. That was it.
Unfinished Swan. So yeah, they then went on to do Unfinished Swan. So I'd heard of Unfinished Swan, and so I'd definitely heard of that. But just Edith Finch totally passed me by. I hadn't even heard of it. Didn't even know what it was. And then so it's just come out of the blue. And then when I started to search for it and tweet it and things like that after I'd played the game, I was like, hang on, this is a big game. What the hell? And it's one of those games that's totally passing by, but it's big. It's one of those games where it's kind of like the Ramones for video games, where people always say, oh, I love the Ramones, but no one's ever bought their album. And it's I think this is like the Ramones of video games.
I've constantly had this with Eco, the exact same thing. Everyone acknowledges that Eco is good, and everyone's like, yeah, Eco is a great game, it's a cult classic and all that sort of stuff. But the vast majority of people have never played it. But everyone sort of heard it in the echoes sort of thing. It's kind of a similar thing, I guess.
This is one of those games. It's like it predates. So I had a similar emotional response. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but it hit me as hard. It probably hit me as hard as The Walking Dead season 1.
Oh wow, okay.
Telltale.
Yeah.
So it hit me as hard as that, but it did it. When was it? When was it initial release? 2017. 2017? Really? Huh.
Yeah, it's a few years ago now. It's 5 years ago. Jesus, yeah.
5 years ago. Huh. Okay. So wait, maybe the Unfinished One was a precursor to this. Maybe the Unfinished One was first.
I think that's right. Because I remember the Unfinished One being on the PlayStation 3, I think it was.
That was 2012. Right.
That's when I played it. Yeah. So it's a while ago.
Okay. It's just that I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but the narrative is flipped.
Yeah.
With those two games, but they're linked. Just the fact that if you Google Unfinished One and What Remains of Edith Finch, you're like, how are they linked? What? That doesn't make any sense.
What do you actually do in this game anyway? I have no idea. I've not.
So I'll just give you some examples of some of the things you do. You can become a cat. You can become a monster. You can chop fish. You can swing on a swing. You can read a comic. You can shoot a deer. You can take some pictures.
Okay, but why? Why do you do these things? What is the goal?
You're reliving the memories of your relatives.
Okay, I see now. Right.
Yeah.
When they were all
when they were alive
deer and like becoming creatures and
when they were living their lives. So it spans like several generations. So it's all throughout history as well. And this narrative is just it's about family, and it's about tradition, and it's about curse, and it's about like understanding yourself through your past and your relatives, and kind of like explores empathy, really.
Right.
And explores how different people can be related, and how you can have different thoughts and opinions and worldviews, and still be in the same family, and still like function, and still love each other. And it's really so many good takeaways, and so many good through lines and threads, and so many so many lessons that you can just dig out of it. It's just it's just brilliant. I can't give it enough praise. Like, it's just the best written like story of a video game that's melded into like what you physically do with your hands that I've ever played. So yeah, highly recommend that.
That is high praise from Chris.
Yeah, and the fact that it's just gone past like 2017 and I never even heard of it, and it's 95% liked this video game according to Google users. So yeah, haven't got a clue. I was freaked out more about how good it was and the fact I never heard of it in equal measure.
Yeah.
Like, if there's an indie game, like, oh, that's good, I'm just like, yeah. But I'm like, where has this been all my life?
Right.
Like, what the hell? So that's what I've been playing. And then anything else? What else have I been playing? I think that's kind of been it this week.
Yeah, I've not really
jumps out.
Like, the only other thing I was playing was I recently got. I haven't got it on me either. That's annoying. But I got a Miiu Mini, a little Game Boy handheld knockoff thing from China. So I'm gonna be playing some retro games on that. But I'll report back on that next week, I assume.
Oh yeah, I was playing Disney Rush.
Oh yeah.
Don't play Disney Rush.
Fair enough.
Although Harrison likes it. You can play little games from Ratatouille, Incredibles, Cars, Toy Story, and Up. And
wow,
there's only three levels per IP, and unlockables, and it's Disney. The thing is, it's crap for so many reasons. But my kid loves it.
Oh.
So is it crap?
Yeah.
It's like Disney
succeeded
is
in its task,
right? In movies, like Disney Pixar, it's like Universal. Like, adults can get cool things from it, and the kids can get cool things from it. The video game Disney Rush, like, kids can get something from it, but adults can only be frustrated if they're into video games of any sort. For example, in the little like choose what level you want to play area where kids are running around, it's like an adventure playground. Kids are jumping on things, but your character can't jump on anything. You can jump for no reason because there is nothing you can jump on. So for example, there's Toy Story bricks, and there's like a crane, and it's picking up the Toy Story bricks, and it's like you're in Andy's playroom, and it's like, oh, this is great, like everything's big, I'm the size of a toy, ha ha ha. Hey, let's jump on this brick that's just there next to me. Nope, can't do it. And then you'll play the animation to start the level off, and there'll be a kid jumping on the brick, and it's just like rubbing your face in the fact that you can't jump on this brick. And you think, okay, fine, I'm going to go play a game, and these little play mats appear near where the level will start. And you think to yourself, okay, I know a user design. I'm 34. I can figure out how games work. I know I've got to go onto the play mat, and that's how I'm going to start the level. No, Vin. You don't go on the play mat. You just go next to the play mat, and then you can start the level.
You've really riled up over
That's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I think I was telling you last week we never actually talked about it, like, the character controllers for most of the actual levels and most of the games are so bad that I'm dumbstruck as to how they came up with it. Like, I'm making my game in Unity, and I'm making character controllers, and it's so frustrating because your input does not match what happens on the screen. Like, there is no way that you can get a character to go where you want it to go. It just ends up where it wants to be.
Right.
And it's so frustrating. And Harrison, my boy who's 6, he is frustrated with it as well. He finds it frustrating, but he's still enjoying the game. And I'm like, do you not get?
He probably because he's
when you
probably
press
used to
right?
like he's seeing like his favorite characters on screen, right, and they're all recognizable.
That's just it. He just sees the rat running around and he's giggling his head off. Yeah, but
Right.
he would ask me not stupid questions. He'd ask me properly legit questions, and that was me trying to get him to like go. You see why it's a bad game? You see, like you go, why am I sliding upwards? And I'd be like, you can't slide upwards. And he's like, why is this rat sliding up a window? It's like, yeah, I know, it's bad, isn't it? So it's just so bad. Yeah, it's so bad. You can slide upwards on other things as well, and it's glitchy.
I think you can do that. So, honestly, from like if you took out the title, it sounds like you're describing a Battlefield 1942. If I'm honest, 2042. It's very, very similar experience.
Yeah.
Bad
Yeah, I
carriage
guess
controller,
you're right.
sliding up windows. Yeah, that sounds like Battlefield.
But some of the textures stand out as being really cool, and the driving is actually pretty decent on the cars one. Like they've got that okay, but like where the hitboxes are and where you can fall off the map and where you can't fall off the map are not
All right, Chris, we've
consistent.
we've talked about this game far too long. Like I don't,
Sorry, just don't play it.
Yeah, just don't play it. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been playing? What else have you been playing? Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, I was getting riled up. There.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's good that you got it out. But I still think anyone cares about Disney Rush.
Good point. No one was thinking, I was going to play that
Right.
after this.
It's ruined. Kind of reminds me like an old podcast which I used to do called what's it? Coffee
Pixel
and Beer
Pints?
Cast. No, I was
Oh.
never on Pixel Pints. Bear Coffee.
you went on that
he's
one?
on TVs in the
Oh,
chat stuff.
hi. Yes.
But I remember talking to Evan about this, and like I remember one time as a joke, I was playing the Harry Potter Lego games, and and like I don't know why, but he took my recommendation and actually went out and bought this game. And I was jumping in and out of it, just like it was one of those games. It was dumb sort of thing, but it's just whatever. I'm having fun with it, right? I'm not saying it's the greatest game in the world, but he played it and he absolutely despised it with a passion. And he was just like, he came on this episode like the week later and it was like, this game, oh my God. And he was just like raving about it. And it's just like, I don't think anyone cares about Harry Potter Lego.
About how good or bad Harry Potter Lego is, yeah.
But he finished it, which, I didn't even do. And I was the one that was like half enjoying it. So hat off to him, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, this is the thing. For all the complaints that I've got for it,
You're still playing it.
is the target? Well, not by choice. Is the target audience enjoying the experience? Yes. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, serious. When are you guys coming on to Pixel Pints? Whenever you'll have us, man. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be
just
great.
let us know, and we can jump on.
Yeah.
But
You've been playing anything else, Vin?
I don't think so. I think that's everything. Really trying to think. I really don't think I've played anything else. Oh yeah, I just started playing Call of Duty Vanguard. I'm on like the second level.
Ah, okay, cool. Yeah, I played most of those. Is it buggy for you?
No, not really.
I had a few bugs on it.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
wait, I'm not thinking of Vanguard. I'm thinking of something else. I think. Vanguard's the new one, yeah?
Newest one, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Which is like the Inglourious Bastard sort of style World War II game. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm on the second level. It's very cinematic. It's very pretty. It's very Call of Duty. It is what it is. It's the most sold game of the last year, so yeah. Everyone knows what Call of Duty is. Like, if you're interested in it, go look at it. But yeah, it's early days. I'll report back to how I actually feel about it next week.
I think it's one of those ones where it might have got, the critics might have dunked on it a bit, but the fans are like, it's actually a pretty good game.
Yeah, they're probably
From my
dunking on it
impression.
after all of the obviously the news that was coming out of Activision last year. So it's kind of hard to like see the woods through the trees on that.
Yeah, there's Laura Bailey that plays like a Russian sniper in that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to her.
Really cool
performance 'cause
character.
I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's probably a good place to wrap this episode up.
Absolutely.
If we want to track down your zombie game and figure out when the release date's going to be, hoping it's going to be soon,
Stop
or if
talking
we can
about this
wishlist
thing.
it on Steam.
No,
Where can we wishlist your game, Vin?
you can wish list it somewhere other than reality. No, but you can find me on Twitter. I am at Hillfort Games. You can find me in some of my indie stuff and my concept art, which I'm going to be releasing a load of concept art from Rainbow Six Extraction very, very soon. And I know I say that every week, but I really mean it this time. It's
we were supposed to do that this week.
Very soon.
It got pushed back again. So there's some stuff that's still not been released.
Yeah.
So I can't see it. So I'm very sad.
Very sad indeed. But
soon.
Very soon. Very, very soon.
So next week, we'll do an Extraction special. Or
Maybe.
Something. Yeah.
But very soon. But yeah, if you are into concept art in general, then please follow me on ArtStation. I am Vin Hill Art. Like I said, stuff is coming pretty soon. But how about you, Chris? Where can people find you?
So on Twitter, I'm at Acrylic Pixel. I think that's the same on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel, which is Acrylic Pixel, and TikTok, which is Acrylic Pixel. But
gross.
It's the same as what's on Twitter, except with less characters.
Yeah.
And the aspect ratio is not correct. So just follow me on Twitter.
And a lot more teenagers liking stuff. But yeah, that's the reality of social media in 2022, I guess. But yeah, if you did like this episode, then please like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of good stuff. Let us know what you think about the topic of crunch and reusing assets. Like, do you agree with us? Are we silly? Let us know. Like, I'm sure there'll be a range of
what's the
opinions
argument
either way.
for it? Yeah.
Don't invite that. Why are you opening
don't
that?
open that kind of worms.
That is the wrong box to open, Chris. Jesus.
And on that bombshell,
we'll be leaving you. So until next time, ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.